Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and this past week has probably been one of the most fascinating turn of events in gaming history. Of course, a few days back, Sony shocked their fan base when they dropped a new job advertisement that implied that they're looking to bring some of their games over to Xbox and to Nintendo consoles. Now, as I said in my previous video, my expectation for the more immediate future is that they'll prioritize live service games first and foremost, and maybe some back catalog games as well. I mean, who knows what they're going to do 5+ years from now? I'm not even going to try to predict that because who knows what's going to happen. But some more information came in today that really tells us why Sony is transitioning into this new surprise direction for them. And it's ironically because of Xbox. Yeah, Xbox might be in the distant third place in terms of consoles sold, but they are dominating on PlayStation right now, and this has really opened Sony's eyes by them leading by example. I mean, just wait until you see this because it is shocking when you realize what's really happening within the console market. So make sure to stay tuned, but first, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you just so much for what you do, and I truly do appreciate each and every one of you. Let's go get right into things, though, starting off with Nintendo, because they finally dropped some official news for that widely rumored Nintendo Direct. It is a real thing, and it is indeed set for the final week of July, really being the final day of July. You can see their announcement here, which reads, "Join us for a Nintendo Direct partner showcase tomorrow, July 31st at 6 a.m. Pacific time. Tune in for roughly 25 minutes of information on upcoming Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo Switch games from our publishing partners." And that is the key part to this announcement. It is a partner showcase, and everybody needs to kind of go in with that expectation. I know there's always a ton of unrealistic expectations, but just as rumored, it will prioritize third-party games. So don't go in with the mindset that they're going to reveal, let's say, a Zelda Ocarina of Time remake or the next 3D Mario. That's not going to happen here. What's more likely to happen is that if they do show some first-party games, it'll likely be for soonish games that need some release dates, such as Metroid Prime 4. They have Splatoon Raiders incoming, and there's also Kirby Air Riders. But the main focus will be on third-party reveals, which I believe will include games like Persona 3 Reload, Metaphor Fantasio, Final Fantasy VII Remake seems like a likely candidate, and also Elden Ring. We still need a release date for those last two games. Now, we've also heard rumors about The Witcher 3 and Death Stranding. I mean, those would be some pretty big and surprising announcements. And that's the thing. Partner showcases in the past for Nintendo haven't always been super exciting. But if you think about it, this generation has the potential to change that because the Switch 2 is a lot more capable, and it's going to be able to play a lot of those bigger third-party releases. And I think we're going to see a lot of that come tomorrow. Let me hear some of your predictions, though, in the comments below. Now, here's something that I'm actually really happy about, though it does come with some bittersweet news as well. I'll circle back to that, but I'm talking about Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. It will launch tomorrow on digital storefronts. Unfortunately, the physical release is set for September, but if you're waiting, in the meantime, you can rest easy knowing that it's at least a very good game, or according to critics. It currently has an 86 overall score on Metacritic with a total of 43 reviews as of this recording. So, I mean, that's a pretty good sample size, and from what I've heard, it's a challenging and rewarding experience, which I think is actually very welcome news for veterans of the series. Quite honestly, I was a little bit worried that they would shy away from its more challenging background just because, you know, a lot of modern-day developers seems to do that. So I'm happy to hear that they stuck to the roots of Ninja Gaiden, but there is one flaw that we unfortunately need to talk about, and that's for the Switch version specifically. Just ahead of its release, .mu posted this on Twitter. They said the Switch version will average a 30 FPS experience at launch. The game will be playable on Switch 2 through backwards compatibility and will benefit from the console specs for whatever that means. Other platforms, PC, Steam Deck, PlayStation 4 and 5, and Xbox Series X and S will have a solid 60 FPS experience. Now, the Switch version running at an average of 30 FPS is a little bit surprising. But what kind of stands out about this statement is that they seem to have implied that there might be more to this story post-launch. In fact, their very next statement confirmed that post-launch updates will be shared as soon as possible. So there is a chance here that even if the Switch 1 version stays at 30 FPS, they might be able to upgrade it for the Switch 2. So bare minimum, I hope Nintendo fans at least get that, because this is a game that I feel like would fit very well on the Switch 1 and on the Switch 2. In fact, that's actually what I currently have it pre-ordered for myself. Oh, and here's another welcome update. There's been a lot of conversation these past few weeks about Battlefield 6 and its price. Just ahead of its reveal, its price in Europe leaked, and it was allegedly 80 euros. So a lot of people took that as it possibly being $80 in the United States. Well, Bilbo Kuhn has since followed that report up with some more information. He confirmed that the base version will be $70 on both console and on PC. Now, there are some more premium versions if that's something that you're into, but I will say this. Even though it sounds like EA will announce a $70 base game, it wouldn't really shock me if they were originally positioning it to be $80. And the reason I say that is because I found it very odd that EA announced Battlefield 6 and its release date last week, but at the same time, they never gave it an official price, which I thought was a little weird at the time. That stood out to me, because it happened quite close to when Xbox reverted their $80 games back to $70, which includes, of course, Battlefield's biggest competitor being Call of Duty. So I feel like that may have started some discussions within EA. Maybe that's why they didn't reveal their price last week, and maybe that's why we have $70 here. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me at all, but hey, either which way, I'm just glad to hear that it won't be. Okay, so speaking of Xbox, we need to talk about what's happening with them and with Sony, because this is kind of mind-blowing. Now, I understand that Sony has had a rough couple of years in terms of their first-party catalog. They're not really releasing a ton of games. But you know who is releasing a lot of games specifically for the PlayStation 5? Microsoft. In fact, apparently, PlayStation gamers are buying more Microsoft-owned games than anything else on PlayStation. That is something that I would not have expected 5 years ago. But reportedly, 60% of the top 10 best-selling games on PlayStation hardware in Q2 of 2025 were Microsoft-owned games. Yeah, this was revealed by Circana's Matt Piscatella, and you can see the list here. As you can see here, number 1 is Elden Ring Night Reign, 2, Forza Horizon 5, 3, The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered, 4, MLB The Show 25, 5, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, 6, Doom The Dark Ages, 7, Death Stranding 2, 8, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, 9, Minecraft, and 10, Assassin's Creed Shadows. So first off, I want to go and say big congrats to From Software. Elden Ring Night Reign has been another massive success for them, and they continue to show the world that yes, you don't have to have an easy mode to be successful. But obviously, the thing that stands out about this list is Microsoft's presence. 60% of the top 10 is absolutely insane. And when Microsoft said that they wanted to be the biggest gaming publisher, this is exactly what they were talking about. I mean, we can all have different opinions about this partially multi-platform strategy of theirs. Some people like it, some people don't. But clearly, they're making a lot of extra money by releasing their games on PlayStation. And if you don't think that Sony notices that, then you haven't been paying attention. One thing that I've sometimes noticed about Sony in the past and just how they operate is that they like to sit back and they watch their competitors' strategy and how it unfolds. They like to see how consumers react before they dive in with their own spin to it. And they have been following Microsoft's lead on multi-platform. Just like them, they've slowly pivoted more to PC. And in the past 12 or so months, they've actually opened up some of their IP to other platforms. Games like Horizon Legos, Patapon, Helldivers 2, and Everybody's Golf. And now, on top of all of that, they've even posted a job listing that directly says that, yes, they are targeting Nintendo and Xbox hardware going forward. Now, again, my assumption with that job is that it will mostly prioritize live service games for the immediate future and maybe some back catalog games as well. Games like Jak and Daxter, Sly Cooper, Little Big Planet, the list goes on and on and on. Maybe Spider-Man at some point. That's a licensed game, so I think that one kind of makes sense. But I'm not expecting, their brand new single-player games like Naughty Dog's next game to launch on Xbox and Nintendo hardware day one as one such example. But what we are seeing is that slow pivot to a more open-minded Sony that doesn't mind the occasional multi-platform release, and that itself is big news. In fact, you can possibly thank Xbox for that new mindset. Sony sat back, and they watched Xbox take over their very own platform with massive success. I mean, again, 60% of the top 10 is just incredible. So Sony absolutely sees that. And it's probably one of the main reasons that they're becoming a little bit more open-minded to this idea. Now, again, I don't expect them to go completely away from their PlayStation exclusives like some people are expecting. That's not my expectation. But I do think that we're getting to a point that they could port the occasional game. Gaming is just changing so incredibly fast, and given that budgets are just pure insanity by this point, who knows what's going to happen 5 to 10 years from now. I don't know if we can rule anything out by this point. If you asked me 5 years ago if Xbox and PlayStation port games to other consoles, I wouldn't have believed that. But that's the game industry for you right now. It's changing, and it is changing so incredibly fast. I want to hear from you all, though. What do you all think about all of this? How do you view Sony's top 10 games? Do you think that it plays a part into why Sony is a little bit more open-minded to multi-platform? And what do you think their multi-platform plans will actually include? Do you think it'll just be smaller back catalog games and live service? Or do you think that there's a potential for maybe a bit more a little further out? Let me hear it in the comments below. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode. But until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.